we are back. We are here to talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's my team. Got MC South Hater over here.
Load the cannons.
Okay. See what I'm talking about? The haters real. Load the cannons. Hashtag seize the day. I don't know if that's going to be it. Hashtag fire the cannons.
Oh, yeah, fire.
Yeah, we fire the cannons.
Okay. You got to load them, though, to fire them, though, bro.
There's no such hashtag. None of that. Y'all know that. But anyways, here to talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers draft recap 2019, man. We're here. And guys, man, before we get into the draft recap, man, 93 is out and 93 is in. That's what it looked like, man.
I like it.
You like it?
Big upgrade for the Bucs getting Suh over his draft classmate, Gerald McCoy. It's just Suh, man, physical, imposing. He's going to fit this Todd Bowles defense a lot better than Gerald McCoy would have. So I think it's a big upgrade for the Bucs.
Yeah, schematically it makes more sense.
Yep.
Dollars in cents, it makes more sense.
Yeah.
You know, and the knock that people are going to have on Suh obviously is quote unquote production. And Joe, I'm gonna let you speak to it because we all in agreement that that's a bit of a misnomer.
Yeah, so, you know, everybody on Twitter and all the blogs and the reporters, everybody was going back and forth. You either way on this side with McCoy or way on that side with McCoy, and then you throw Suh in there and you talk about the numbers. And where I come out on it, man, basically is, listen, I know that McCoy has missed a bunch of games because of his two first seasons, or within the first 3 seasons, he missed a bunch of games with the bicep tear and another bicep tear. And you talk about the numbers, and they're close. They're pretty close. But then when you say, oh well, McCoy missed a bunch of games and Suh hasn't, why is it so close? Context, man. What is McCoy being asked to do since he's been in Tampa? What has Suh been asked to do since he's been on a bunch of different teams? And Suh has played more positions than McCoy. Played in 2 different styles of defense, from a 4-3 to a 3-4. I mean,
he's been asked to 1 gap, 2 gap, 5 technique, 3 technique, nose. I mean, everything. And I don't know that. I can't say definitively, but I don't know that Gerald McCoy is quite as versatile, number one. And number two, the question has always been the mentality aspect of it. The mentality. Does McCoy have enough nastiness? You know what I mean? Can he flip that switch and be the dominant 3 technique? You know what I mean? We're not even gonna get into number 99, but in terms of because his job was interior pass rusher. That is your job. That's why we're drafting you. Whereas Suh was just linchpin of our defense, so everyone else can be better. So I think as they're transitioning to this odd man front, Suh's a better fit. And the other thing is that, you know, McCoy's had seasons, quality season, Pro Bowl caliber seasons, but I've never felt like he was the best player on the field at any given time. And I have certainly felt that way over the course of Suh's career. Now, it hasn't been quite as consistent over the last few seasons. Sometimes you don't necessarily get the most motivated Suh, you know, or he's doing a little too much freelancing. McCoy was known for doing some of that himself. But when Suh is locked in, he can take games over. And you just don't see that from Gerald McCoy.
Yeah, I know people were throwing up, you know, he gets penalties and things like that. And so does McCoy. There's been some offsides, but I'm not going to kill nobody for getting penalties. I'll take it as long as you got the, you know, I see you doing that work out there.
And B.A. said, I hope he has that look in his eye. When they asked him about the penalties, he said, I hope that's, and you could tell. You could tell that McCoy's persona, his personality, wasn't fit in this program. In addition to the obviously the figures and the corresponding production, that didn't help the situation at all. But certainly, it seems like they wanted some nastiness in there, and they're going to get that in the form of a Suh.
And I know a lot of Bucs fans. That's what they've been asking for. They wanted that guy at whatever level they could get it, whether it be the secondary,
get it somewhere,
linebackers. But now we got it for the defensive line. You add a Vita Vea, who they got last year, and you talk about a Bo Allen. I mean, that's a pretty good. That's a pretty good defensive line, not from a pass rush standpoint, but from a displacing the line of scrimmage, from destroying the line of scrimmage to cause disruption so the people behind them can do the work, whether it comes from the linebackers or the secondary. And so now we go into the first pick. Number pick, 5th. How you boy Chappelle did it?
I believe
fifth? No, it was 5, right? The 5th pick overall, Mr. Devin White, and this pick makes a whole lot of sense because when you watch the tape at LSU, this dude, sideline to sideline, stack and shed, blitzing linebacker. I know that's what you loved about him, was his blitzing, timing the blitz. I mean, pass coverage. I mean, he's today's linebacker.
Yes.
Most definitely, man. You spoke about that defensive line that the Bucs has assembled and the guys behind them, man. And that's exactly what Devin White needs is that front three just disrupting, doing all the dirty work. Like you said, he flies to the football. He comes with bad intentions. Yep. And like you said, what I like the most about him is his blitzing ability. Todd Bowles' defense, you think about it, it's an aggressive defense that sends a lot of blitzes at the quarterback. And Devin White is capable of doing just that, and even more. He's a leader also on this defense, and it's a big upgrade over the last LSU guy they got.
It's Kwon Alexander, making $14.5 million over there.
Kwon?
Why y'all disrespecting Kwon like that?
We like Kwon, but it is an upgrade over Kwon Alexander, man.
It is. I don't have a whole lot to add to that. The only thing I would say with respect to the White selection is obviously you see the way the league is evolving. You know, the fact that it's a lot of 7-on-7, you need guys who can fly and get sideline to sideline and are comfortable in coverage. You know what I mean? All 3 downs. And he certainly brings that to the table. And then, of course, the leadership. I think again, we talked about the mentality with Suh. Devin White brings that dog mentality as well. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying? So you're getting some of that nasty, some of that I'm going to punch you in the mouth at the second level now. More of it at the second level because Lavonte David has been stalwart for a very long time. You know, whether the team has been on the cusp of being a playoff contender or in the dumps, Lavonte David, when healthy, has always been very, very consistent and is a Pro Bowl caliber player. So you put him next to Devin White now on the inside as it moved to the odd man front, and you got a nice pair in there, the inside linebacker.
And to piggyback off of that, Lavonte David, his best season was under Greg Schiano, attacking style defense, downhill blitzing, coming off the edge and all that stuff. So now we're going to see that happen again. And the one thing I don't want to leave out, because Devin White wasn't a can't miss prospect in terms of his tape evaluation. He will miss tackles. He will overrun things, but what you usually say, if you're gonna miss,
if you're gonna make mistakes, make them fast.
There we go. Take that all day. In the second round, which was I think a surprise to most, because you had Chauncey Gardner on the board, you had a couple of corners, top corners that were still available. Greedy Williams. People was hot. It was hot. They were like, yo, Jason Ladd, we want you out now, right now. Figuring that BA and Todd Bowles are in the room. They went out and they got Sean Murphy Bunting. At the time he was Sean Bunting, but Sean Murphy Bunting out of Central Michigan. I had to go and I had to check the tape. And watching the tape, man, it makes sense. I understand the picture started to come into view. I understand, okay, why we gotta go corner? But I get it. We want bigger corners, we want faster corners, and we want guys who's going to put their hands on the opposing receiver at the snap.
So Greedy checks those first 2 boxes, but the third one not so much.
Nah. Let's just think about this scheme real quick. It's a blitzing style, come downhill defense, right? So what do we need our corners to do? Do we want our corners 8 yards off and receivers running free, or do we want the corner at the snap of the football to put their hand on the receiver to disrupt and disturb things so that the people coming downhill to come and get that quarterback can make plays, right? Yeah. So that's what you kind of getting with Sean Murphy Bunting.
Yeah, Sean Bunting, man, when I watched him on tape, I liked him a lot. I thought the pick was a little too high, maybe a little reach on paper from a value standpoint, but on tape, man, he's a sticky man-to-man corner. I like him better inside in the slot. He's in the hip pocket of defenders. He's feisty. He fights through the catch point. So, he's a physical corner with nice feet to go with that. We talk about that aggressive defense. You want your guys to be sticky. You don't want that Mike Smith defense last year. 8-man. 8 yards off the wide receiver. Zone.
It was like 12 yards.
Yeah, 12 yards? 12 yards. Yeah, I remember that Julio route, man, on third. It was bad, but Todd Bowles is not going to make that mistake. They're going to be physical, and these picks in this draft and what they're doing in getting Suh, it tells you where they're trying to go as a defense.
You guys obviously, study these corners top to bottom. Greedy fell in this draft. We anticipate because of the position, because of the league, the pass-happy nature of the league, that he was going to go, in the top 20 range. And then as things began to kind of unfold, we thought, okay, well, he's not getting past Seattle. You know what I mean? Long cover 3 corner, but it's the fact that he's that cover 3 corner and not necessarily that man-to-man, press man-to-man guy that you think the Bucs ultimately went in a different direction. Do you agree with that notion?
Yeah, I think a lot of people out there, they look at Greedy, they look at his stature, they look at everything about him, and they think he's a press man corner that can stay in the hip pocket of receivers. But on tape, his technique is lacking, his physicality is lacking, his back pedal, he's kind of a little loose. So he's not that kind of guy that you want to have on the island, man to man. That Todd Bowles would probably put his corners in position to do. I like Greedy Williams as more of a zone guy. I know people are going to fight me on that. I've been in debates about it, but just on tape alone, his technique is not there right now to be relied on one-on-one in man defense.
And then I'll just be waiting for him in the screen. Is he gonna come up and put his head in there to at least turn the running back the other way or something?
Trying to get to the league, man. Trying to get to the league healthy.
Well, okay, we're gonna find out here soon enough for Cleveland with him. But in the third round, the Bucs went out and they surprised everybody again. With the 94th pick overall, they selected Jamel Dean, cornerback from Auburn. Again, you go and you look at his size, big corner, strong corner. He had some knee injuries that kind of, I don't want to say derailed his career, but I want to say maybe slowed it up. A guy who, in my opinion, I think Helly's going to disagree with me here, has the ability to turn with his hips, that man-to-man coverage that Todd Bowles likes, disrupting routes, moving receivers and tight ends off their routes.
Things I agree with you with Dean. He's big, he's strong, he has a good punch, but I don't think he's ready right now based on his footwork, his technique. He plays a lot higher in his coverage. His footwork is a mess right now. Very flat-footed as a defender. I think with more coaching, he can become a better prospect, but I don't think he'll make a big impact year one for the Buccaneers.
I disagree, man. I disagree, but we'll soon see. With the second, third round pick, 99 pick overall, I think the Bucs got a steal here, and Mike Edwards from Kentucky, a guy who played 44 straight games. That's 4 years at Kentucky. That's 11 games a year. If you simple math, I got you. Don't worry about it. A guy who started freshman year. What does that tell you if a guy starts freshman year in the SEC in the secondary? That tells you either the team is not, ain't all that good, or that he's a baller. And this is a guy who played nickel, played both safety spots, and a guy who would come up, lay the pads, a guy who could play in space. I mean, heard this from the guys from Pewter Report. I want to give them their due. They asked a bunch of Kentucky players that were going into the draft, hey, who's a guy that if you go into war with, who you take it? Who was the top player for Kentucky that's coming out this year?
Josh Allen.
Who's that?
Pass rusher.
Okay. That's not who they picked. They picked Mike Edwards.
Yeah, this guy has leadership, just oozing out of him. I've seen him on tape. He's pointing to his teammates and where to line up. So he's a very intelligent player, versatile, like you said. I've seen him up high, guarding the slot, in the box. So I think his greatest attribute is in pass coverage. Very instinctive in pass coverage. I think his issues, even though he had 100 tackles, he gets to the ball a lot. He's always around the football. Sometimes he's a little too over-aggressive, and he can miss some tackles. Also, being stronger at the point of attack in the run game. I think the run game issue, he needs to improve on that. But as a leader and as a pass defender, I think this guy is a big get for the Buccaneers.
He ain't got to worry about none of that. We got all the guys up front, the three defensive linemen, the big boys, then we got the linebackers. Y'all know who we got, and then we got Jordan Whitehead.
You sipping the Kool-Aid?
Yeah, I'm sipping. We got Jordan Whitehead who's gonna come and clean it up. Because to me, I think it's gonna be Mike Edwards and Jordan Whitehead back there because there's something going on with Justin Evans.
Look, you mentioned Whitehead, and obviously we've talked about Dean, Edwards, Bunting. A lot of additions to the secondary this year, a lot of additions last year. So at a minimum, there's going to be a ton of competition, a ton of young players who are going to be put in a position that they've been selected to play in a particular system, a particular style of football. Now, you got Carlton Davis from last year, MJ Stewart, the aforementioned Whitehead. Early on in their careers, they're going to rely on their athleticism. It's about playing fast. They're going to make some mistakes. They're going to get beat from time to time, but I really like the Edwards pick in particular because, again, you've made another selection that changes your culture. And by changing the culture, that actually is what took place at Kentucky. People talk about Benny Snell and of course, Edwards being pivotal in turning Kentucky, which has historically just been a basketball school, into one of the better teams in the SEC. When you really peel back the layers, their defense is terrific.
Yeah.
The amount of players that they sent to the Senior Bowl this year is really indicative of how Stoops really put this talent together and they went out and performed. So I agree with you, Drew. I think this guy could be a legitimate steal.
All right, in the fourth round, finally, we did the right thing and we got us a defensive end, a pass rusher, Anthony Nelson out of Iowa. And he's not the sexy. He's not the coming off the edge, screaming off the edge, coming down and swiping hard. I mean, he might because he's 6'7", he's long. But this is more of a edge setter, a guy who wins with length. Could he eventually become a better pass rusher? Yeah, but in this scheme, I don't know if that's going to be the case.
The situation with JPP, given the car accident, he's going to be thrust into playing time sooner rather than later.
Yeah, man. You guys mentioned the high motor, highly intelligent guy. But what I like mostly about Anthony Nelson is the way he uses his hands. This guy swim, pull, chop. Yeah. He got all those pass rushing arsenals in his bag. He's not the bendiest, twitchiest guy, but he disengages from the offensive line really well, and he can get to the quarterback, man. So I do like this Anthony Nelson pick. The weaknesses for Anthony Nelson is he's 6'7", so his leverage, he gets up too high, he can get pushed back in the running game. So he just got to work on getting stronger, hitting the weight room, and he can be a very good rotational piece for the Buccaneers.
All right, so in the 5th round, the 145th pick, we went out, we got real sexy. We got extra sexy. We put the barbecue sauce on the chicken.
Okay.
No, we really didn't. It was bland. We went out, we got a kicker from Utah. It's the best kicker in the country, apparently, right?
That's a Bucs special, man. They draft the best kicker in the country, man. Aguayo.
Come on, bro.
What was his name?
Don't act like you don't know his name.
He's from Florida State.
Stays
in Seminoles. I root for the Seminoles, but I wouldn't have traded up in the 2nd round to draft a Roberto.
You don't bring up, people.
Are we moving on? Yeah,
we're moving on.
No, in all seriousness, kicking game has been an issue in Tampa Bay, and the thought process is this guy actually will get the job done, and I mean it's a huge part of the game, the third phase of the game. You got to put the ball through the fork.
That's it, man. It's a curse though for Matt Bryant.
Yeah, where's Matt Bryant?
I don't know. Well, he was with the Falcons. Yeah, he's gonna set a curse on y'all too. Get ready, bro. Get ready. I don't know who y'all pickers. Who cares? Okay, in the 6th round, the 208th pick, the Buccaneers selected wide receiver Scott Miller. This is a bit of a surprise to me. I don't hate the pick. Because when you talk about, losing Adam Humphries, losing Deshaun Jackson, you need a guy with speed, you need a guy who can get open, and here's a guy who can actually do both, and a guy who's not a diva, a guy who's going to come in, who's going to work, and he's from Bowling Green. If I didn't say that, which I don't think I did, but he's from Bowling Green. Smaller guy, but a guy with speed, and a guy who you hope James can get the deep ball to.
He definitely can stretch the field. But I'm more interested in those undrafted free agents, the receivers, Anthony Johnson, Damarkus Lodge. So I'm trying to figure out, out of these 3 guys, who's going to make the football team.
We also got Pierman on there too, so
he's definitely making the team
as a free agent. But
it's a crowded receiver room. That was going to be the only analysis that I had. It's not even really analysis. It's a fact. It's a crowded receiver room, but it's not a bad problem to have.
No, not at all. Not at all. Let us know who you think's going to make the roster with all those receivers named. So in the 7th round, the 215th pick, the Buccaneers selected Terry Beckner Jr. out of Missouri, D tackle. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Gerald McCoy in terms of his quickness off the snap. He's a little bit bigger than Gerald McCoy, a little bit stronger than Gerald McCoy, but this is a guy who, watching the tape, it was kind of hit or miss, and I don't know again if it was, because he had a bunch of snaps, he got tired, or if it was one of those things where he's just taking plays off. But this is a guy who's going to be a rotational piece, a guy who you can stick in there. And I think you're going to get the best out of him because he's not going to have to play every snap.
Sure.
Again, it's a 7th round pick. You take a flyer on a guy, see what happens.
He's definitely a developmental guy. He got a lot of power. He's a phone booth kind of guy. You know what I'm saying? You don't want him out there on the edges. He's quick. He's going to get his assignment done and try to get to the quarterback.
Might be a dime sub package player, so we'll see.
A couple undrafted guys we're going to mention. Lukas Denis, Boston College. He's a versatile guy, plays safety, but I really like what he did at cornerback. He can play the outside corner, so that's more pieces on the defensive backside for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Hey, best man wins the job.
Bruce Anderson, running back out of North Dakota State. That's where that's where Carson Wentz went. And so it's a winning program. And I was watching some tape. I was looking at other players. This dude was running through people like it was nothing. They were little DBs, but it was like a little speed bump. Bucs fans, hashtag fire the cannons. let us know how you feel about the Bucs draft. Let us know how you feel about the undrafted free agents. What receivers will make who's gonna be the 5? Who's gonna be the 6 receivers that's gonna make the team? Remember, we got Brady, we got O.J. Howard, so.
Is in the building.
Go Bucs.
Come on, bro. Don't make sure that's not that, bro. I'm a Falcon fan saying that, bro. I don't need that.